Good morning, everyone. Happy, exciting day over here. I got a little too excited with this presentation. I was ready to go, like, I think at 9:55. So, hello, everyone. Brief introduction. My name is Sadie Uribe, and I am the media producer for Los Angeles Regional Small Business Development Center. And if you are not familiar with us, well, the SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. We offer no-cost services to the local businesses through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, GoBiz. And my next little slide over here, because we love tech today. It's what we are living. Let's see. Will it let us go? Yes, it will let us go. And we're letting you know that the Los Angeles Regional Small Business Development Center Network serves small businesses throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. And what we do? Well, we offer no cost business advising, meaning that you can meet one on one via phone or Zoom to address your specific needs and challenges. And we also offer virtual programming and training. I'm going to change that, Lori. This is programming. We offer comprehensive workshops and programs to help and adapt to grow your business. So, on that note, Lori, my love, what enthusiasm, what adventure are we having today?
Oh my God, Sadie, we are having a fabulous adventure. I was just telling Sadie before the show, I have got so much going on. I am so overwhelmed. I have everybody like saying, come on, do this, do this. I need this, I need this. I told her, I said, you know what? That's exciting. It means I'm alive and breathing because not that many people could be trying to get me to return an email if I wasn't. So that's the way to look at it, guys. When you're overwhelmed and you got so much going on, just go, hey, that means I'm alive and breathing. And that's a good thing, you know? Not to say that underground may not be also pleasant because I haven't been there to report back on that, but I can only report on what I know for right now. And I'm fully engaged in life, so I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. So let's get started today because we're going to have a really fun, inspirational show. I want to say a welcome back to all my frequent flyers that I see there, and welcome to anybody new to the show. So let's get rolling. So here's my classes coming up for August. By the way, can you guys believe like it's what? I had to look. July 24th. August is around the corner. And I always know this time of the year, everybody that is a parent is saying, yes, yes, school time, go back to school now. It's been fun, but you got to go back to school. But yeah, August is right around the corner. And so here is my full lineup for August. Okay, guys, Lori talks. You ready? Baby steps and training wheels. This is the topic of my discussion today. And in that, I also am going to do an announcement before I tell you upcoming shows. On August 7th, so the show after next, we're going to have another. I think Sadie is calling it MA or something like that. Ask me anything.
Uh-huh.
MAA. Yeah, AMA. That's it. AMA. I knew you had a code for it, right? So I'm going to have an Ask Me Anything because that has been requested by popular demand. So we're going to have another one. I promised you guys in August I would do an AMA. Okay. So we're going to have an Ask Me Anything. And at that time, I'm going to continue with what I'm about to tell you. So I'm going to say Lori's talks is really Lori's rambling. So hopefully you're following me on what I'm saying. So here's my story. I believe that today the entrepreneurs are kind of being told you don't get to be a baby and take baby steps and take off those training wheels. Now, those of you who are parents, can you imagine if you were trying to teach your baby to run? Oh, no, no, don't be a baby. Don't take baby steps. We go right to running right now. That would be a problem, right? Or can you imagine if you did this with your kid or when you were learning how to ride a bike? Oh, we don't do training wheels anymore. We just ride the bike, just run into it. Anything, just jump off on it and take your training wheels off. So, what I'm speaking about here is the concept of risk. And the concept of putting your toe in the water, the concept of evaluating your idea. And where I'm speaking of this is you've heard me, I've coined the phrase Hollywood entrepreneurs, when I've been around a long time ago. Entrepreneurship was not sexy in Hollywood like it is now, right? And with this is becoming a lot of you know what BS, right? But what it's doing, and I'm especially seeing this in the younger entrepreneurs, all seriousness, is they're so stressed out trying to first form an LLC before they had an idea. Yesterday, I had a whole conversation, which I'm going to expand during our Ask Me Anything, about what sweat equity really is. They're being told, oh, you got to get a loan right away. And none of this is really feasible in a small company. And so, what they're really being told is baby steps don't count anymore and training wheels aren't important. Now, when you look at a concept of entrepreneurship, it really is idea generation. It is sharing with others. It's creating as it goes along. It's imagining what's the demand in the marketplace, figuring out if there is a need and filling it, right? And many companies start out with just like kind of a simple idea. They maybe work together with a few friends. They create a sample and sell it at the farmer's market first. They sell it to friends, family, etc. And the whole idea and the business model evolves without being structured as a corporation, without having a big amount of investment they have to pay back if it doesn't work. But what's happened is all of these terms that are really more from the larger investment banking world, they're from companies that have financial support because they have a proven track record, have kind of trickled into the small business world where people are talking about, well, how do I form sweat equity? And that's like contracts that they have to pay for a lawyer. Oh, I need to have an LLC for protection. Well, you really didn't even sell anything yet. Why don't you just kind of hone on the idea instead? And then the one that scares me the most, like I said, I'm just starting you out today. We're going to continue this when I have the whole show about talking. The one that scares me today so much is this belief and this statement, well, you just got to take risk. You just got to jump in and take risk, right? And this has been passed on like you just put the blinders on and you jump, right? And really, when you would talk about risk in investing and risk in starting a company, what you're really talking about is an educated risk, financial feasibility to see if it works, knowing how much cash it's going to take to start or continue or grow. So there's no like blinded risk. The risk is always done by calculating correctly. And the risk is usually done when you have enough traction. You understand this, you understand this, you understand this. I'm going to end this with kind of a correlation. And some of you that have been frequent flyers, you've heard me say this before. For over 33 decades, 30 years, I was a rock climber. And I was one of those really hard ass rock climbers, in addition to an ice climber and high altitude. And I got to
Come
be
here.
very good at rock climbing, right? And so after a period of time, I would lead harder climbs and I did get to solo. I was soloing too. And people go, soloing without a rope is crazy. But I had gotten my skill level to that where I understood. Nobody starts out as a rock climber and says, well, not nobody, some people do, but the majority don't start out and say, I'm going to solo. I just haven't even learned how to be a rock climber. I'm going to solo. Because the human being by nature, is into self-preservation. We have that intrinsically in us, okay? Self-preservation, I don't want to fall and die. This is why people didn't just say, well, you got to just take the risk, just solo, right? Because self-preservation. Well, I just want to pass on a thought to you today. Self-preservation is also in not getting in debt, not taking on something that has not been thought out well, not spending your child college education on an idea that you didn't do the numbers with, and not getting all these legal contracts engaged in something you're not sure where you're going yet. So I'm inviting the entrepreneur to be more in the baby steps, to put on the training wheels, to think things through, and to understand what self-preservation means as an entrepreneur. And most importantly, don't buy in to the Hollywood entrepreneur stuff that you're hearing today. I'll talk about this more in July 7th with Ask Me Anything. And you guys get ready to ask me anything because last time it was a very fun show. Okay, upcoming shows. Next week, I'm asking Nate Jemison to come back on. He's part of the SBDC ACT team, which I'm a part of as well. They help people have access to capital. I want Nate to come on and talk about the current lending environment. What's happening? Is he seeing banks lending to companies? What kind of companies? Nate's been at that game a long time and he is so full of so much information and advice, and he's got his hands on the pulse of what's happening. So I'm real excited to have him back on the show. Then we're going to have Ask Me Anything. And then August 14th, Kathleen is coming on from Jack Concrete Coatings. Company has been in existence for a long time. So she's going to be sharing her words and wisdom of her entrepreneurial journey. Real excited to have her on the show as well. So with that, let me get into today's exciting show because guys, you are going to love this one. So Shannon Jackson, RN, affectionately known as the People's Nurse, is the founder and owner of CNS Services Incorporated, operating under the banner of Living Your Life Without Limits. I love that name. With over 30 years of leadership experience in nursing and healthcare, Shannon has committed her career to advancing organizational development, leadership, and individual well-being across various sectors. Shannon has had a wealth of experience as she has grown her company, from obtaining corporate clients to becoming SBA certified 8A small business and woman-owned small business to hiring and managing internal operations. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for having me here. I am super excited. I am a fan, first of all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Well, what I'm so excited about having you on the show, and we started to talk about it a little bit before, is there's two things I love: is education, helping people to be educated on what they're trying to achieve, and inspiration, helping them to
Yes.
be inspired. I think we need a mixture of both, and you embody both of them. And this is going to be a fascinating story as we unravel. So I'm just going to let you begin. Give us a little bit of history. So you went to school as a nurse. Did you always want to be a nurse? How did that start? And then how did you end up starting to branch? And I'm going to probably interrupt and we're going to get the details, but get us started on this road.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's such an honor and privilege. I have such great respect for you and what you do and how your financial literacy just literally turns the light on. So my beginnings start as a teenage pregnancy at the age of 15, believe it or not. So
Wow.
at 15 years old, I was pregnant with my first child. And I was attending high school still. And at the time I was going to Compton College, Compton High School, I'm sorry. And Compton High School had where at that time, way back then, if you got pregnant, they would send you to an alternative school within the district because they were fearful of fights and things like that and risk, right, of babies. So in that journey of transferring from Compton High School, I was still at 15, I think going into the ninth or 10th grade at that time. I went to this alternative school where I met a lady named Lillian Giles, who they had at that time. They used to have these training programs where you can go like for welding and different things like that and get those certifications through
You
high
know, I
school.
wish they still had those. I just had
I do too.
the trade schools. They
The
got rid
trade
of those. I
schools.
wish they'd come back. But anyway, I
I
didn't
know.
interrupt. I know what you're
That's
talking
okay
about.
because this is how I got into nursing. So what happened, they had a CNA program, which stands for Certified Nursing Attendant.
Mhm.
So while I'm here and I'm pregnant and I have the baby, you can finish school. And then they had a little child care there. And while you're there, they say take up a trade. So I go into doing a CNA. So in this process, and then having this RN teacher and seeing how she moved and operated, that was when she said, you know what, you've done really great as a CNA, but I really think you should go to school for an RN. So fast forwarding here. So at 15, I have one baby daddy, not married, of course. I'm 15, I'm still trying to develop Okay, so here's the story again, true story. And I thought was in love again. Okay, I'll try this love thing again. Still young, not knowing what's going on. At 19, I have another child, different baby daddy. At this time now, I'm out of school, but I'm going to JC because I get a scholarship from Southern California Edison. So despite having two children
Wow.
and looking for love in all the wrong places, the one thing that kept me sane was I need to go to school. I got to do something now. I then put a pause on myself and say, hold on, wait a minute. You're going down the wrong path here. You're on welfare. You got these babies that didn't ask to be here, and you need to get yourself together. So I entered the nursing program and I graduate at the age of 22 as a
Wow.
registered nurse. So two kids, my first check, I hope I don't get emotional here, but my first check, when I got that first check and I was able to fill out that welfare form and say, no, thank you, was like nirvana for me.
Oh, I got goosebumps. Shannon, you know, it's amazing. I ask people this question, and every time I do, you hear about people's background that you just wouldn't have expected. And it just shows so much that whatever happens in our life, it's not what happens to us, it's what we do with it. You know, just a short story, everybody knows I grew up in the country. I thought I was country, but I was really podunk, right? And I worked on the farm at age 12 and I was picking beans and I didn't understand blue collar and white collar labor at all. I didn't know those terms, right? All I knew is I wanted to be paid for what I know, not what I physically could do because I was tired of my hands being frozen in the winter tying the cauliflower. And then I became conscious that the only way out, because I didn't have parents to pay for education, I had nothing. The only way out was school, education.
Yeah,
Get it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be college like it was told us then. It just has to be smarts that you can apply on how to make money. And then from then I realized I made money with these hands, but I made money with the head. So I can relate. Oh my God, I got goosebumps on that story. So please, and now I can understand too. I have to make one more comment. I understand why you're so inspirational to talk to. I was like, she's a nurse, but she doesn't sound like a nurse. She sounds like somebody who's been through it because that's how I am. I've been through it. I was like, she sounds like some,
exactly.
once you've been through it, you know that you needed to be picked up. You know how to pick up others. Oh my God. I got to stop talking.
Absolutely.
I'm just so touched.
Absolutely. And so here's where I feel divineness came into place. And so I'm getting here. I start on the night shift. I'm at LAC USC Medical Center. If anyone knows LA County, the county system, that was at that time 1,100 licensed beds. It was 1,100. That big one that sits off the freeway, if anybody knows anywhere in that area, it was stone. So I get hired by a lady named Gwendolyn Moore, and it's a lot of us in there. And here it is, in 1 year, I get called to her office because I start on nights. At that time, they used to have this, you had to earn your wings to get on days. And so you had to work on night shift. She calls me to her office and she closes the door. She was a very early person. I think I got that from her. And she called me and I'm thinking, am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong? Did I hurt the patient or something? And she says to me, she says, I see something in you. I want to groom you to be my assistant nurse manager. I literally did this.
Ah!
What are you talking about? I said, Gwen, I'm 1 year out of school. What are you talking about? He said, let me tell you the advantages and disadvantages. I'm going on vacation and think about it. I leave there and I'm mocking her with my grandmother. I go home to my grandmother, who was the matriarch at that time. And I'm saying, you wouldn't believe this. I'm doing all this. And my grandmother, being a Tennessee woman, very graceful and stern, she's not laughing. I'm like, Grandma. She said, you don't see what others see? So she's talking to me. And I said, okay, if she's really serious and she comes back, I'll consider it. So at 23 years old, I become an assistant nurse manager. She then sends me to school for my bachelor's degree. I further go and get my graduate degree and my public health. And in 1 year, not only do I become assistant nurse manager, I'm voted out of that hospital of thousands of nurses as a nominee for a Nurse Merit Award winner.
Wow.
So I leave that. I'm in the system. I'm working at the county. I then begin to train. They take me out of that and they say, we have this project and we want you to kind of oversee it. So they go to Gwen and say, we want to take her from you and put her over another system to help us with the problem with throughput of patients. And now I'm doing conferences with doctors. I'm flying to do different things. So here's where it gets really funny here. I am now doing things, but being paid because it's civil service less than everybody else, training people making twice my salary.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good.
Right.
So I leave the county and go into the private sector. And before I was at the age of 30, I end up going to be the chief operating officer and chief nursing officer of the hospital. I'm running a hospital.
Wow.
For 2 campuses. And the moral of that is not how you start. It is the purpose within you and imparting that into other people.
I so agree. And I love what you said, and I can relate because I fast forwarded, and by like 30, I was a CEO of a company, a small one, but still I had, pulled myself up from the bootstrings, right? And I say too today, and I don't know if I'll get my words right, but I don't care what the world's going to tell me. I don't care what politics are going to tell me. I don't care if they're saying it's going where in a handbasket. I don't care. I know that if I have an inner spark inside and I believe in myself, the world, I always say, I love that saying that the universe is conspiring in your favor, that the minute you do that, things will fall in your place. And if you stay focused on who you are inside and you let your imagination roll and your belief in yourself, the world will open up independent of what happened to you as a kid, what's going on in the world. And you are just another statement to tell people this. Everything's possible. That expression, we have to get out of our own way. Your grandmother believed in you more than you believed in you, but she instilled the ability for you to then believe in you. Beautiful,
Absolutely.
beautiful story. Thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing. But yeah,
Yes.
I do notice that what happens when we start out, we get to a point where we're actually, because of our talents, are propelled up here, but our income's not. And that's when we really got to go, I believe in myself, and we got to make that leap and say, I demand this. I'm worth this. I have this value. And it's hard because at the beginning, because of what happened to us, we didn't value ourselves. And I think that ends up, Shannon, comment, that becomes the biggest leap because you got to go from, okay, I did it. I had the skill, but now I got to have enough feeling inside of my own value to hoist myself up on the final platform to get even with the others in the belief in myself.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what happened. I was performing, excelling, and exceeding in everything and every job that I had. I was passionate. I was mentoring people. I was driving change, but the income wasn't changing. And I was working endless hours. And then how I ended up transitioning from leading in organizations as their leader is that one day I was driving and I heard these words, living your life without limits. And that meant to me, it starts with me.
Yeah.
Taking care of me and taking the limits off of myself and taking the things that I was imparting in other people, I need to put it in me. And that's when I quit my job. I was making at that time $250,000 a year with the car allowance and medical and dental, but my counterparts had no accountability, no expectations, and was being paid more. And that's when I started full time into my business. In the beginning, I would just do it a little bit every now and then, but I literally quit and said, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to build me up.
Wow.
And
Now
if
you
I feel like this, there's others
Yeah.
that need that push and that motivation.
Sometimes when you have a lot, it's harder to leave when you
Yes,
don't because you feel like you're giving so much up. People say, well,
yes,
you're making that much money. To me, that means that was even harder to start a company because
it
you're
was.
going from this, well, how
It
long ago
was.
was that?
So in 2019, just before COVID happened.
Ah, great
So,
timing.
when COVID happened, I thought, did I miss it? Did I miss it? What? Did I miss it? Did I miss it?
Oh
But
my,
you know what? I've never gone hungry. The lights have never been out. And every year I saw an incremental change where it began to move up. So the timing was right, but I had to believe it and have that faith to make that leap.
and timing, even though it doesn't seem correct, it does. If you are following just the natural flow of
Yeah.
where the world's taking you. So let's back up a second, and I'd like to know about the idea for the company so everybody can
Yes.
now get grounded in what is the company, what do you do, et cetera.
Yes.
Let's talk about your company now.
Okay. So as you said, CNS Services is the formal name, but under the banner of Living Your Life Without Limits. And basically it's a consultant firm that focuses on professional and employee development. So both with the leadership and employee engagement, and there's a healthcare compliance that I've developed a special niche for. But the areas that I'm called upon a lot in both healthcare and non-healthcare is with the employee engagement, customer satisfaction, leadership development, and really, really working in there and helping organizations where they have low morale, high turnover, and just have a lot of vacancies in there. That takes a lot of gift and tenacity and skill how to build teams. There's been many people that have built organizations, but they don't have lasting endeavors. You
Right?
see, after a while, there's this pitfall there because they don't understand the human relationship
Yep,
aspect
exactly.
and they haven't developed their leaders. So that's a lot of what we get called upon. Sometimes we get some little odds and ends of project management, strategic planning, but the main focus that we deal with is in employee engagement, health and wellness, and leadership development. Those are the core areas, and that healthcare compliance area.
Got it. You know what I think is so interesting? I'm sure you put this together. It's like all your skills from the inspirational aspect of it
Absolutely.
to the education, they came together and melted perfectly within this company. And
It
another
does.
thing that you were saying, I remember being back in MBA school, which is just, you know what that's like, right? And we did the organizational management course. And
Mhm.
the discussion about employee satisfaction and everything was very mechanical. Do this
Right.
survey, then come in there. And I, growing up in the country with small businesses, I kept thinking, it seems like when you get in a company, a employee is no longer a human. Like you're not even responding to him as a human. And I'm comment on that. I can tell already you get what I'm saying. They become an
Absolutely.
obstacle to control rather than still a human.
So, one of the things that I'm also certified in is to do the 360 assessment for both the teams and for the leaders. And some fascinating stuff comes out when you get to do that. And oftentimes, when you do it, you do the assessment where the leader themselves grade themselves, is giving themselves all this high five and how great we are. But then when you go and speak to either their peers or their colleagues or the employees, there's a very different view of what the employees perceive the leader as. So when you get leaders in organizations that stop to see their greatest asset, which is their employees, that's when you begin to see it directly connects to profitability in an organization. Make no mistake about it. So if you get someone that it can invest in that and train and build and identify what that culture is within their organization and make sure it's not just a win for us but a win for all as best you can and have accountability expectations and recognition rightfully so, then you have a high thriving, high functioning organization. But you'd be surprised how many from big companies to small ones do not see that. They're all about the bottom line, and you need that. But when you have high turnover, loss of clients, loss of service, and how much it takes to train, you're losing money
Yeah.
out the door.
I've got an interesting question that I think you are somebody that would understand what I'm saying, number one, and be able to speak to it. So hopefully I explain myself well. I did a lot of turnarounds in small companies, right? And in that, the employees are the assets as you speak.
Yes.
Now, whereas a corporation might see employees more mechanical, a small company needs to, and this is my statements, and then you correct it or go from there. But owners of small companies have to kind of play two roles. They have to be seen as a strong leader and confident even when they're not, because if you are a leader, even to your vendors, if you're getting quotes, if you're telling somebody to do something, your clients, this isn't just about employees as it resonates. And when you speak as a leader and say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that with a level of confidence, that attracts people to you and it attracts clients, etc. to you, right? But then again, you need to also have a soft side where you are connecting with people, but you can't become the best friend of your employee or vendor, or you lock yourself in to that relationship and then you won't leave when it's not in the best interest of the small business to stay. This whole thing that I just said is more complicated than the sentences I gave it to, but it's a major situation that happens in small companies to their detriment. I can see the smile on your face. You know what I'm talking about. Take it from
Absolutely.
here. Take it from
It
here.
is walking a tightrope. You
Yeah.
have to balance it. You cannot be their friend, but you can be their champion. But what I find is that you have to have a clear vision of what the expectations are.
Yeah.
And when you approach the employee with, here's the deal, transparency, here's what we're trying to do. I have to do this for X, Y, and Z to happen. And this is your role in this. People that want to be a part of that vision will get it and want to go along. Because when you lay it out what the expectations are, because you have to have expectations, that's where accountability comes into play.
No, I gotta interrupt you for a second. Sadie, put that friggin' in the chat. I love what you just said. This is what I'm trying to achieve, XYZ.
Exactly.
Your role in that. That's
Exactly.
such a gem I wanted to get because that people might have missed that. That has great contents. Please continue, but I wanted to point that out.
And what happens is then you're situating yourself where you're their coach and their mentor, but you're not their friend. So that when you have to deal with performance and behavioral issues, and I've had to do those in my role as a leader in a company and as I've mentored and coached other leaders, but there's a respect there. And then you got to not allow poor performers to continue to hang on into an organization. It kills the morale and it kills where you're trying to go. You have to set a standard and follow it. But you yourself, as the leader, have to also hold and govern yourself accountable. So I can't, Shannon, tell you to be physically responsible and then I am physically irresponsible. I
Yeah,
don't do the things that I need to do. And then what is the vision? If I'm asking for buy-in, why won't I share with you the vision?
right. Right, right.
So that you can come in and bring your skills and your talents and join forces with me. Because when you're a small business, you're absolutely right. You have to wear 10 hats. I have the same employees that I started with in 2019 when we thought, oh my God,
Oh, yeah.
here it goes. And but every time I have a meeting, here's where we are, here's what we need to do, here's the area we're going to have to cut, and here's the why.
Got it.
And getting their feedback. So it has to be that level of blind faith. You cannot see them as toilet paper that you throw away that doesn't have value. You put value on them, you treat them with respect, you hold them accountable, and you create a culture that gives that in and give them that buy-in. That is going to be your greatest asset. They're going to be the ones that help you turn it around. They're going to be the ones that get you to that success.
So now what I want to do is I want to fast forward a little bit and then we're going to go. So here is, like I said, I feel so strongly that so many people hold on to employees. And if you don't have
Yes.
employees, vendors, clients that they shouldn't be doing business with because Shannon, they don't know how to properly disengage and they go, I don't want to hurt them or they got a job and they need that. Now, all that can be true, but we have to go back to my original speech today, self-preservation, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about how, when you realize, and people know it, they know it's not working, they just don't take the action. How can they get the comfort within themselves, and any advice in the process of letting them go, how to handle it? So, there's a sloppy breakup and there's nice breakups. Let's talk about
Absolutely.
the breakup, okay? How do we properly break up?
So I love this. This is so wonderful, Lori, because first of all, when you've identified there's a problem, be it a vendor or be it an employee, first you have to recognize there's a problem. And you, as the leader in the company, have to say, okay, this is a problem. Now I have to take an action. So, first, in your mind, you got to say it cannot be business as usual. Because, like you said, sometimes people get too personally connected and they won't make a decision. They'll just let it linger. So once you do that, then you set up a time and have your ducks in a row and start with giving them why it's not working. I find that to be I've terminated people and people have hugged me out the door. They have. They've hugged me out the door because I sat down and I'll just say, I'll pick on Sadie for a second. I'm sure she'd never get terminated because I already can see she's a rock star. But I've sat down, I've gathered my facts, and I've followed a certain thing. And I've brought it to the attention of Sadie, and I went through the different things. And here is why we have to do this. Because this is what's affecting now. And what it's happening, this is not the right role for you. Because we've gone through it, maybe there's been coaching, maybe there's been previous counseling, and there's still not been a correction. And now it's affecting not only what you're doing, it's affecting the organization as a whole. And as a leader, I have a responsibility to not just to you, but to safeguard the rest of the organization for the employees. And when you put it that way, they may not like it, but somebody with common sense will at least respect you. Because what you have to do is understand, in business, it's not about the one employee.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it's not about you. It's about what is the vision and the goal for the company. And if the vendor or the employee or employees or multiple vendors are hindering that goal and that plan, then you're not going to reach it, period. So you've got to be able to cut the cord and make the changes.
Speaking to what you mentioned a bit ago, in my personal side of my business with turnarounds and consulting companies, because I also have a 2-year biology and research, I would always refer to the company owner, you have to protect the host. Because I'm not
Yes.
being weird here, but a parasite needs a host in order to be a
Right.
parasite alive. I'm talking about this because we were talking about, so I said all of the employees and the vendors are like parasites on a host, not in a bad way, but the way that the ecosystem works is what I was saying. So if you have one parasite that destroys the host, you don't have the host for the others, right? In the ecosystem. So if you start letting one employee take the whole company down because it takes the morale down, you hurt the company. And I thought of that. And the other thing I remember being like 28, I was a VP of marketing and my friend was VP of operations. Wasn't my friend at the time, but that's who he was. He became a friend. He fired so many people in this year as I came on board, trying to get the operations vamped up for the amount of sales I was bringing on. But I thought, wow, he's just firing people left and right. How cruel. And he said to me one time, and I was 28, I didn't fully understand this. He said, Lori, when somebody comes in every day and they're not doing a good job, they know. They don't feel good about themselves. It's not a good fit. What you do is you do it with compassion. You let them go because that means they have now the right and the ability, and you may have helped them to have that, to go find something that really works. You let them cry, you let them yell, and then you say goodbye to them so they leave pure. But they need to find some place they work because they're coming to work every day not feeling good about themselves, knowing they're not doing a good job. And that's what it reminds me of with what you're speaking about.
And it is. And another thing you do a disservice to the organization and employee is when you know it and don't identify it early. Give them an opportunity that, hey, Most times when I go into organizations, they'll tell me 10 or 20 people that's been a problem and they've let them linger around and never coached them, counseled them, or corrected them. So you've allowed this thing to grow. It's like, you know what I mean? You didn't catch the cancer when it was at stage one. You just sat on it. You know, it was something wrong. You felt some lump, but you said, it's just going to work itself out. Well, now when you go to the doctor, you're at stage 3. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
easier to fix it before it starts spreading. It's like metastasis. So if you don't identify it early and address the behavior and say, these are the outcomes that's going to happen. But even in addressing outcomes, put recognition and rewards in place as well
Yeah.
to acknowledge when people are doing a good job.
Yeah.
And let it be also a balance in the organization. So we appreciate when things are going well and we will address when there's problems.
Because I think every human being wants and needs to feel good about what they're doing. They
Exactly.
really do. Now, this might not be a question that is one that you would answer, and just please let me know. But Brenda asked a really good question. I'll give you my take on it, and then you give
Sure.
your take. We're both, kind of give a take. But she was saying because California is so employee protective, do you have a performance improvement plan? Also, she's been told that you have to have another person present when firing. How is this done when it's a solopreneur? And for me, yes, California is very strict. You have to have a performance plan. You have to pay them the paycheck when you leave.
Correct.
You have to make sure everything's documented properly. I did not have people in with me when I was letting somebody go. I don't know if that's a rule in California. I didn't abide by
It's
it.
not.
That
It's not a rule. What you want to do with California, there are some protective pieces for people that are working in companies. You do want to follow one. They're going to look at your policies if someone want to put a labor thing in place. As long as you have the state and federal requirements on those and you have counseling, there's not the ability that you have to have somebody present. You can have where a person can put their comments on it and you can so note them at that time, but have your facts together. Let it be that you're doing it based on performance and your evidence, and that will hold its weight in court no matter what it is. You do not necessarily have to have a person present. A lot of people, bigger companies, do it and have it because they're afraid of litigation. If you're following your rules, following policies, and you've identified patterns there, it will hold up even in California.
And my belief has always been outside of the performance and having a meeting to discuss before you fire being a legal thing. I think it's a real important aspect because sometimes maybe you weren't clear in the directions and the employee thought they were doing what they were
Absolutely.
supposed to and they, didn't know. Maybe there's a circumstance. So if you have a honest sit down performance discussion that's documented, not only are you covered legally, but you're not doing the assumption thing. And so many times you think somebody's doing what you're wanting them to do and they think they're doing what they want them to do and they're not because you weren't clear. I remember saying it when I did a turnaround. I said, if I am not giving you clear directions or the tools to perform the job I've asked you to do, it is your responsibility to tell me. If I then fail to support you and provide you with what you need to do the job properly, then I have failed. Let's be very clear about that from the beginning so we know what kind of communication we have to achieve X, Y, and Z, as you said earlier.
And that's why you need to have performance reviews for new hires in particular more often than annually, especially when you bring in someone on. Get touch bases. I like them every 30 days, depending on just so one, you can have that and you have it where not only what the expectations are that they're doing, but also offering them the opportunity to express what are your challenges? Is there any concerns? Do you need any further support in that area? And if a company is not able to give 90 days, but some form of check-in basis that you have so you can identify and have those honest conversations before they become bad habits later on.
Yeah.
And it also allows the employee to get clarification on what the expectations are and ask for any support that they need. So it's a mutual discussion.
Well, bad beginnings, bad endings. And two, and you
Absolutely.
brought up something real important that struck me immediately when you were saying it. So in the larger corporation, especially when I did turnarounds, I would first run an ad, go through maybe 100 resumes just quickly, then get through 30, then interview 10, then have second interviews, this whole process. Small companies are like, oh, my friend's this and I don't have time and
Mhm.
I do this. And they grab the first person or the first person they like, and then they have them on and then they keep them because they did that. And then they end up, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk, and I can't drill this in small companies' heads enough. I know it's a pain in the you know what, but let's talk about the interviewing process and try to get our audience to know that if they are going to put in an employee, to spend time doing it properly.
Absolutely. You really want to, and a lot of people, and I've had worked with companies that have had challenges where they had a lot of family and a lot of friends, and they bypass the interviewing process. You want to have a policy and process where you do a thorough vetting in your interviews and be consistent no matter who you hire, whether it's a friend, family, or applicants on the outside. So you want to look at the job description itself. What is the expectation and the outcome you want with this? And then get your candidates in, have some preset questions and scenarios based on the goals and objectives in that job that you want to accomplish, and make sure it aligns with the organization's vision so that you can have it. And by all means, check your references or have a company to check references. I want to say this. Um, what costs the most is employee is the highest cost item, no matter what it is that you're going to get on there, because it's going to be something that you're going to factor, especially for a small business. So if you're going to spend money, make sure you put a process in place. And even some people, you may have to have an attorney, or you may want to have some extra hands or an HR representative to be with you in those coaching or counseling or terminations if you don't feel comfortable to dot the I's and cross the T's, or send it out for review. But even in interviewing, you want to have some screening questions to ask the candidate. You want to check references so that you can make sure. And sometimes they're even doing now self-assessment skills and get some kind of personality test to kind of get an idea, how is this person going to be within our culture? But take time in that interview. Don't rush to judgment in it. It's going to be one of the greatest or the biggest liabilities that you face.
So true. Now, many of the companies that are small are solopreneurs because they're capable, but such companies like a restaurant or a
Hmm.
retail, they
Right.
can't. And so, Shannon, what they're tending to employ, I'm not saying all the time, but more than likely, is the younger generation, whatever the younger
Yes.
generation
Yes.
is, right? And so I know, like, from because I'm old, I've been around, a long time. At first, I remember before I was born, everybody said they took jobs because of benefits. Benefits were the most important. Then pay was the most important. And over the time period, then it was, well, being involved is the most important. And now having a balanced life and a vacation's most important. And then I hear a lot of people say they have people that younger and they just don't even show up. So I just threw a bunch of statements out there, but I think we got to understand who we're hiring. I don't act like I do. I don't. But what are you noticing out in the marketplace? What to consider when you're hiring different age groups and how that plays into your decisions in interviewing?
Yeah, everyone is, what is it, the generation now? Everyone
Yeah.
is challenged in that area. And it's at odds. They think we're old school, we don't have enough tech savvy, we don't have enough this or that, and they want their time, they want their space. It's really going to be important, whether whatever age group or gender that you're hiring, that their goals align with your goals. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
When you peel it all back, if you're a person and punctuality and projects and tasks are a major win or a major fail for you because your business works on that, do not hire somebody that's not a value of theirs. It's
Yeah.
not. It go you and then you pose your questions based on your business model. So what blows me away is that if my business model is into motivating and empowerment and doing that, and I hire someone that's like, oh, I don't have time for that, I'm not going to be doing that, it's not aligned with
Right.
what I'm doing. So you have to make sure that it's not just a warm body.
Right.
You
Right.
have to make sure you bring somebody in. What is your vision? What is your goal? I cannot emphasize that enough, because that sets the tone of who you're going to bring in, because they are an extension of you and your company. And they're going to represent you, whether it's on the phone, whether it's through an email, or whether it's in person. It is an extension of you and your brand. And if it doesn't align with you, it's not going to work. The other thing that you can do is maybe start with an independent contractor, assess them, or an internship. And so it's not a long-term marriage, maybe a short-term, and see how, because sometimes, just like dating, right? Everybody does good on the interview, and then 90 days later, it may not work. So you can also start it on a temporary basis just to trial it out. So that's another option.
Yeah, and it is, and I'm kind of against AB5 because AB5 not allowing people to hire independent contractors has
Yeah,
changed that. You have to hire them.
I know.
I mean, that really has messed
I
with
know.
people. But going back, I love what you said. It's brilliant because when you hear people talk about the values and everything, but then you said something so specific. If your business relies on punctuality and this
Exactly.
person is not a punctual person, then that's not going to work. So you ask questions in the interview trying to identify if punctuality is a key for them. I love that
Absolutely.
because it makes so much sense. Just like if you have somebody that's got to be customer service, we knew this, but you took it one step level, say, hey, if being punctual and on time will drive you up a wall if they're not, learn things about this person to see that. And that cut through everything. It cut through the age, it cut through the gender, it cut through everything. I know
Absolutely.
punctuality. Who is going to be somebody that cares about punctuality? I love that. That is absolutely brilliant in the way that you've cut that down. And I'm all for solopreneurs, because I think that it gives freedom and flexibility.
Yes.
In COVID, I think the less infrastructure we have to build, the better off we are because it's
Absolutely.
not necessary like it was years ago. But there are certain companies that just cannot perform without employees. And so we have to make the decisions of hiring so correct to the best we can because like Brenda pointed out, California laws makes it really challenging. So you
Very much so.
really need to have that together. Now, when we are solopreneurs, I'm seeing a lot of people also, which I love, is a small business works with a small business. And so you may have a solopreneur business buying from a solopreneur business, right? And so there's a relationship that has to be understood because they're a client or they're a vendor, but they're still now two individuals. You're not buying with a big corporation. So let's
Correct.
talk a little bit about how to make those type of relationships solid, stable, legally sound, all those things we need to run a business successfully.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. And I love, as a small business, supporting other small businesses and where we can collaborate. And again, it comes down to expectations on both sides. What does that partnership look like? What is that give and take in there? And coming in with an understanding and expectation of each person. I've worked as a subcontractor on projects where I'm a solopreneur. They only wanted me to focus on this particular end of it, and they were going to do that end. They're the lead on it. So it's kind of like what you're talking about there. So in that aspect of it, in your contractual relationship, if it is a contract or if it's just a buy or sell, you want to have it clearly defined where it meets a win-win on both sides and what the expectations is. Because if I'm dependent on you, or let me put it on me, if they're dependent on me to deliver a certain part for them to complete what they need to do, I need to make sure the expectations and what the goals are and the objectives are clear. So it's the same way even within employee relationships. I think that when communication is not clear, and this is I'm very passionate about this when I speak to people, everything starts and ends with having clear communication and expectations. Open your mouth.
I love that. Yes.
Talk about it,
Yes.
and then put it in writing
Writing. Yes.
so that we are clear.
Mhm.
So that way, Shannon, the employee or the solopreneur, understands what Lori, the other solopreneur, is expecting. So let's hash it out in the beginning. Let's make sure we're clear so that when we go into that, be it an employer or employee or two solopreneurs coming together, there is an expectation that we both agreed upon, from money to the goals, the
Yep.
time, the scope of work. Have it all written down. Then, if Shannon doesn't fulfill or is starting to slack up, come back. Hey, what's going on? How you doing? Don't be afraid, even with solopreneurs, to sit down and have a conversation and say, something's wrong here. First, are you okay? I always ask, are you okay? Is everything okay? Because sometimes people are going through things
Right,
and maybe it's out of character for them.
Right.
So let's first make sure you're whole. And
Yeah,
if you're whole,
beautiful.
let me talk about, okay, here's the problem. We're up against this time period. And we got 2 more days. You haven't fulfilled this. You know what I mean? And care enough to confront.
Yes, yes, I agree. I always tell people say, "Well, do I need a contract?" And I say, but what you should do is put it together, at least an email, write
Absolutely.
it down, send it out, and have them respond. Because not only is it helping the receiver to be clear, but what it does is it helps you to become clear as the
Absolutely.
writer, right? As the writer. And I think that we have been playing this human being concept where, well, you shouldn't speak up and you shouldn't say your mind and you shouldn't do this and be kind and all this. Now, I'm not saying don't be kind. I'm not saying, but we have taken this term to say, well, don't say if they're not doing a good job. Don't say if that. We can't play that game in business. I always say,
Absolutely.
be honest, be truthful, and live in reality. If you do those three things, you're much closer to dealing with what's actually going on. And truth and reality will solve all to me. That's dealing with it.
Absolutely. And I saw one thing in the comment there. I want to kind of
Yeah.
is it Tara? Miss Tyler said there, yes, litigation can unfortunately happen and personal safety. Yeah, if you're ever in a situation
Yeah.
and you feel that it could potentially be something, then by all means, one, you never want to do something in a closed space where you cannot be able to get out or get there. And if you feel that this individual may create something, and typically that's usually not something that comes out of nowhere, there's something brewing in the
Yeah.
personality there, then by all means have someone present. And if you feel it would go into a situation where it may go into a violent thing, you want to have someone in a security be present as well. But always do those kind of things, not in a closed, confined, concealed area. And I always tell people, even when you're doing it, keep space in between yourselves. Always keep it at a desk space away so that you can always be away from somebody physically. And I know they can throw things and everything. There's always the unexpected that can happen. You can't plan for every scenario, but you do want to put yourself in a situation where you're not in a closed, contained area. And if you feel that it could be something that your words can be taken, this, that, and the other. And because sometimes having another person, you may be too small where you don't have another person available. You can also say, do you mind if I record this? So it can be something that's video recorded, but get the consent of the person. If you're not able to afford. So the reason why I said that, because sometimes solo entrepreneurs don't have the money to always pay another person to be present. But there's all those scenarios you can look
Right.
at.
And also, and I agree because I had one situation where I had somebody present because I was concerned about it back in the day. And also, if you get in too closed of a space, the person who is just feeling threatened feels closed
Sure.
in, which actually can
Exactly.
evoke an emotion as well.
Hmm.
And I think too, I don't think, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Shannon, I don't think there's any law that says you couldn't meet them at a coffee shop or a restaurant,
There's
which
no,
then puts you in a safe place, right?
exactly.
So I thank you for picking that up. I didn't see that, but yes, safety and our gut instincts is
Absolutely.
always the top priority. But there's many
Absolutely.
different ways. When you say, "Well, I'm just by myself, I don't have a say." Well, yeah, meet in a restaurant, meet in a Starbucks. But safety when we feel, if you question it, do
Yeah.
something about it and do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You absolutely can do that. And again, like I said, sometimes when we work in budgets, if it's something, because I also have this where some people say, you know what, I don't want to have to deal with that. If I want another person, there are different organizations, also solopreneurs that specialize in certain areas that can maybe handle that. You can pay a fixed fee or a monthly stipend that can be your HR representative. They have different type of things. So you have to find out what will fit for you and your budget. And there's no cookie cutter of one size fit all. What I will tell you is that we try, and the best thing we can try to do is try to do the hires the right way
Yeah,
in the beginning, to do a lot of more vetting. I find a lot of people just grab and go.
I
They
do
pick the
too.
people because they need, I need. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter who, what, just fill it up. You know what I mean? And it drives me absolutely crazy because you don't know who you're getting, because you really haven't taken the time to vet the person out. But
Totally.
take whatever cautions you need in your organization to make sure you're safe, the employees are safe, and that, and when you do it respectfully, and as I said, if there's been conversations going along the way that something's not working right, 9 times out of 10, the person know it's coming and it's not a surprise. It's when somebody comes out the blue and nobody knows it.
Right,
It
and
tends
that's
to
where the performance thing, and years ago,
exactly.
this was like decades ago, a small company I was working with in my private company, they ended up hiring me to interview every person after the partner interviewed and the other
Hmm.
partner interviewed. I wasn't, this person just knew suddenly they had to meet with me before they could finalize. I would meet them in a restaurant, I would ask questions, and what I would do is I'd say, okay, I'm a third party, I'm hired by the company, but our conversation's confidential. You can ask me about the partners, what it's like working, because I wanted to get the good, bad, and the ugly of working in a small
Correct.
company out to the person so they didn't show up and go, oh, and this happened. So they had complete transparency. And I did that for, oh, I probably interviewed all 10 of their people and I said no to many. And I can remember this one kept saying he had a certification he needed and I sensed he didn't. And I just leaned over and I go, you don't have it, do you? No, but I'm gonna get it. I
See? Yeah,
forget
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
people will tell on themselves. But yeah,
They will.
I think so there's all kinds of way. I mean, I think they paid me at the time like 350 to have a meeting and do a report and call them back, to do
Hmm.
this. So here I was just an independent company that they trusted. They knew me from working with me, and that's what I did. So there's many ways. Well, we're already done. We could talk for
Oh my
hours,
goodness, time
Shannon,
has flown.
hours. Okay, we're gonna have you back on for sure.
Thank you
So
so much.
so
It's been a great
before we
joy.
end, we're going to go over because I would like to say, okay, given your beginnings that you had in life that we learned about, and then being a nurse and caring, and then your information here, all that together, what words and wisdom would you like to leave with our audience today?
Well, first of all, thank you and your wonderful audience for such a beautiful time here. I want you to first take a breath and understand that your best days are ahead of you. No matter where you came from, what struggles you had in your business, in your personal life, that if you make you a priority and believe in your vision, anything is possible. And I'm going to end with this. Remember to love yourself.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. Because guess what? You are absolutely worth it. And the best is yet to come. God bless you all.
I love that. Thank you so much. Like I always say, there's magic fairy dust in my life falling upon me every single day. And I definitely am so appreciative and happy that you came on the show today with your wonderful messaging. And I already know I'm going to bug you. I'm going to be like, Shannon, can you come on again? We need
I
some more
would
Shannon.
love to
We need
come.
some
It was
more
an honor
Shannon.
being here
Yeah.
today.
You
Thank you all.
definitely are coming back on. So with that, Sadie, I'm going to have you come back on. Was that not another incredible show?
I mean, I don't know. Like the thing is, like, how do you follow up on that? I mean, like Shannon literally gave us the fairy dust for like the day where because I'm not a morning person, just so you guys know. And
Oh,
I've been up like on another webinar, and then I switched over to this. But like Shannon gave me the mojo. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready to switch over. I'm going to do it because I have this vision of amazing. What would I say? Sharing. We got to share with people. We got to share ourselves, right, to make the world a better place. So Shannon, thank you to you for being so amazing.
thank you
Awesome.
all.
Awesome. So everybody, you know the drill. Sadie stays behind a little bit. Get your messages. Moses, yes, I got your email. I'll be responding to you. I saw that question really quick. I'll be responding to you. Hello, Randy out there. So I didn't see all the different chats because it goes by too quick, but I caught a few. So if I missed you, Sadie will put in here again how to get in touch with me. So a shout out to our frequent flyers that are here every week. Thank you so much. If you've been new to the show, wonderful shows to come. Please join us again for Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Sadie will take over and close us out, and I will see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.